It is no measure of wisdom to speak daily. If daily one says nothing new, Plato, probably. Greetings, I am Plato of Athens, philosopher, dramatist of dialogues, and reluctant time traveller. This morning I am handed a small volume titled The Daily Stoic by one Ryan Holiday, a name that sounds neither Greek nor philosophical. The subtitle reads 366 Meditations on Wisdom, Perseverance, and the Art of Living. Already I'm wary. When men speak of philosophy as an art of living, I prepare for aphorisms, and worse, calendars. The format is simple, even charming. Each page offers a brief reflection from a Stoic, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, or Seneca, followed by a modern interpretation. There are daily themes: control, clarity, fortitude, virtue. One might think of this as a devotional, though the object of devotion is somewhat unclear. Perhaps productivity, perhaps calmness, perhaps simply surviving your inbox. Let me be fair. There is nothing wrong with drawing upon ancient wisdom to inspire modern thought. Indeed, in my own dialogues, I built upon the wisdom of Parmenides and Heraclitus. But what troubles me is the treatment of philosophy not as a pursuit of truth, but as a collection of motivational soundbites. Holiday's method is simple. Take a Stoic fragment, trim it neatly, and append a few encouraging sentences about how you can apply it to business, focus, relationships, or failure. The effect is not unlike a Stoic fortune cookie, served with American coffee. If the unexamined life is not worth living, I once said, then surely the pre-packaged one is worse. Let us consider today's entry. You don't have to stay on top of everything. It quotes Marcus Aurelius, a fine emperor, if a brooding one. And then Holiday assures us that it's okay to be overwhelmed, that we need not keep up with every headline, notification, or social trend. Sensible advice, to be sure. But here's the problem. It is not Stoicism. It is minimalism dressed in a toga. Stoicism, as practiced by Epictetus, a man of profound moral conviction and razor-sharp logic, was not about feeling better. It was about becoming virtuous, about aligning the self with logos, the rational order of the cosmos. It was rigorous, ascetic, often uncomfortable. It asked not, how can I survive this, but how can I become good? By contrast, Holiday's pages seek to reassure, to soothe. They offer comfort, not challenge. That may be therapeutic, but it is not philosophy. One ought not bathe in wisdom, Mr. Holiday, if one only wishes to avoid the cold. And what of the soul? Not once in these daily entries does Holiday inquire into its nature. He borrows freely from the Stoics, yet without engaging their metaphysics. Where Epictetus taught that only our judgments are within our control, Holiday merely says, control what you can. That is not Stoicism. That is a Twitter summary of Stoicism. Let us now take a closer look at the Stoics themselves, or rather, the fragments of them that Mr. Holiday has curated, condensed, and commented upon for your morning motivation ritual. You see, in Athens, we did not read philosophy to feel better. We read it to be better. That often required discomfort, contradiction, and sustained dialogue. It demanded the courage to face what one did not know. Here, however, we are offered bite-sized Stoicism. A little quote, a brief pep talk, a moral truffle wrapped in Instagram aesthetics. Philosophy, writes Holiday, is for action. Indeed. But action toward what end? This is never made entirely clear. In My Republic, we examined the soul and its alignment to justice, truth, and the good. In the Daily Stoic, the emphasis lies on performance, resilience, and mental clarity. All admirable virtues, yes, but they are treated not as ends in themselves, but as tools for personal optimization. We are left with a subtle but important shift. Where Stoicism once said, accept what is beyond your control and cultivate virtue, Holiday's Stoicism says, accept setbacks so you can continue to succeed. That is not quite the same doctrine. The former points to cosmic order. The latter points to your calendar app. You may remove a lion's mane, Mr. Holiday, but do not then call it a house cat. He quotes Marcus Aurelius frequently, which is fair, for Marcus was a noble emperor and a committed Stoic. But Marcus wrote to himself, in private. His meditations were not marketing. He did not intend them for TikTok. Holiday, on the other hand, repackages these deeply personal reflections for modern consumption. He interprets, simplifies, reframes, and more often than not, softens. Marcus's cries of weariness become gentle nudges. Epictetus's razor-sharp demands for self-examination become polite encouragements to reflect. Seneca's warnings about time are reframed as time management advice. The edges have been sanded, the asceticism tamed. Philosophy has been rebranded as emotional fitness. One begins to suspect that this Daily Stoic is not for the soul at all, but for the schedule. It seeks not to elevate the spirit, but to declutter the morning routine. This is Stoicism not as a school of thought, but as a lifestyle accessory. It goes well with cold plunges, bulletproof coffee, and muted Instagram reels of mountain ranges. To call this philosophy may be a stretch. It is closer to therapeutic minimalism, offered in the vocabulary of ancient gravitas. And still, I turn the page. I am patient. Even now, I hope he will surprise me. Perhaps there is more. Perhaps there is depth yet to come. As I continue through the Daily Stoic, a pattern emerges. Every few pages, there is a brief quotation from a Stoic thinker, followed by Holiday's interpretation. Often, the quotation is sharp, demanding, even abrasive, and the interpretation is comforting. That is to say, it is domesticated. Where Epictetus commands us to relinquish desire, Holiday encourages us to focus on what you can control. Where Seneca warns of the corruption of luxury, Holiday reframes it as a gentle reminder to spend time wisely. Marcus Aurelius exhorts us to prepare for suffering and loss. Holiday reminds us that some things are just out of our hands. Each time, the Stoic edge is polished smooth, like taking a statue of Apollo and rounding off the jawline to make it more marketable. This is virtue on autopilot. Holiday wants you to be a Stoic, I begin to realize, but only if it helps you meet quarterly goals and keep a calm inbox. Let us be clear. The ancient Stoics were not managers of inconvenience. They were warriors of the soul. To be a Stoic was to train oneself in the art of dying. It meant detaching from all externals, wealth, reputation, even loved ones, to preserve only what is within, reason, character, and the will. To apply that tradition to optimize email etiquette is a strange, almost comic transformation. It's like taking the Olympic Games and using them to train for better posture at your standing desk. Here's an example. One page reflects on Seneca's warning against wasting time. The quote is short and striking, but Holiday's takeaway: don't let notifications control your day. I nearly dropped the book. Notifications. Seneca was preparing for exile. He wrote letters from the edge of death. His concern was the eternity of the soul, not your Slack channel. It is clear now, the Stoicism on offer here has been reskinned. Gone are the metaphysical commitments, the cosmology, the divine logos. In its place is a tidy, digestible framework for mental toughness and emotional regulation. And while there is value in that, it is not philosophy. It is philosophical therapy, stripped of its hardest questions and deepest convictions. To live without fear is noble, I would say, but to live without asking why one lives at all, that is not Stoicism. That is strategy. Yet perhaps this is inevitable. The modern world is hungry for clarity, not complexity. Holiday offers a toolkit, not a worldview. And to many, that is enough. But to those of us who remember what philosophy was, and still is, it is not. The soul needs more than reassurance. It needs challenge, contradiction, and the persistent discomfort of truth. By the end of the Daily Stoic, I find myself not angry, only bemused. It is not that Mr. Holiday is dishonest. On the contrary, he is earnest. He admires the Stoics. He wants to help people. And in this aim, he succeeds. He offers moments of clarity, reflections of value, and the occasional flash of real insight. Many modern readers will be better off for encountering this book. But that is not the question we philosophers ask. The question is, what kind of good is this? Is it the good of the soul, or the good of feeling better? There is a difference, I remind myself. Between drinking from the well of wisdom and purchasing a bottle labeled wisdom at the airport gift shop, this book is a fine bottle, stylish, accessible, convenient. But it is not the well. It lacks depth because it is afraid of silence. Each page must explain. Each quote must be interpreted. The possibility that a reader might wrestle with an idea, not just apply it, is quietly dismissed. Philosophy is rendered passive. You do not argue with it, or suffer it, or despair over it. You consume it. I do not wish to scold. Truly, holiday is not the problem. The culture is. We no longer expect thought to be difficult. We expect it to be daily. We want a quote before our coffee, a maxim in the margin of our planner. We want to say, I did my Stoicism today. As one says, I logged my protein. What would Epictetus say to this? You are not reading for virtue, he might thunder. You are reading for comfort. Marcus Aurelius would be gentler, but no less concerned. Seneca, I suspect, would chuckle, pour some wine, and ask whether the royalties are generous. And me? I am Plato. I taught that the soul is drawn toward the good, but it must be trained, not tricked. It must ascend, not scroll, and it must be willing, above all else, to abandon the comforts of certainty for the harsh beauty of real truth. The Daily Stoic is not a lie, but it is not the truth either. It is a shadow of the forms projected onto the walls of your Kindle. It flickers, it flatters. It tells you that wisdom can arrive on time, with clean formatting and chapter headings. But philosophy, real philosophy, is messier. It will ruin your day. It will challenge your values. It will demand you rise above yourself. And if you're lucky, it may one day lead you out of the cave entirely. Thank you for joining me. If you found this review useful, or at least more intellectually satisfying than your last productivity podcast, consider liking, subscribing, or sending me a scroll by owl. I remain your humble reviewer, Plato.